Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today at the community briefing. Up first, we have Mayor Sarah Karen.
Good afternoon. Today is April 6, 2020. Our COVID numbers in the state are up to 320 with 6 deaths. Cottington County has a total of 12 cases. We now have community spread, which means that one or more of the cases in our county cannot be traced to where they got the virus. We know it is in our community somewhere. It is so important to keep the distance between yourself and others to at least 6 feet all of the time. Keep washing your hands frequently. People who have had a test for COVID but don't yet know the results should stay in quarantine until they get their result. Assume you are contagious until you get a negative result. I have received several notifications that people are getting emails from me that look like they're coming from me anyway. Sarah Karen, the mayor, asking you to purchase gift cards. This is a scam. Do not respond to any messages from me requesting donations. I do not do that. We'll talk more about scams a little bit later. Some people think COVID will not happen to them or that there's not a serious threat. This is much more than the flu because we do not have a vaccine at this time. We don't want a large number of people to come down with COVID at the same time and overwhelm our healthcare system. How long this situation lasts will depend upon our collective behavior. It will certainly last longer than anyone wants it to, but our actions can make it shorter. I want to encourage everyone to stay home if you can. Don't take unnecessary trips. Some folks have to venture out, and we should all respect that. We need to thank our healthcare workers and first responders who are on the front line preparing for a surge. Thank our grocery store workers who are doing their best to meet all of our needs. Thank our essential workers keeping our supply chain going. And thank all of the volunteers who are sewing masks, donating food, delivering goods to shut-ins, and all of the ways we are lifting up each other. You can volunteer by calling or going online to 211 Helpline. And thanks for all that you are doing to make our town strong and healthy.
Thank you, Mayor Karen. I'd like to take a moment just to talk about some scams. I'm Steve Rehorst, the Public Information Officer with the Watertown Police Department. During this time, there's going to be people that are out there trying to take advantage of our concerns and everything going on with COVID. And so what I'd like to ask everyone to do is be cautious and be vigilant when receiving information that may seem as a scam. So I have some tips today. First off, the IRS is not going to ask you to pay a fee or to confirm any personal information that may be of yours. So be cautious if you receive an email about that. Also, don't click on links that you have not solicited and that you're not aware of. A lot of times what companies will do, or these scammers, they will send you a link or a website, something to click on, or it'll come from an email that might look legitimate, but there might be some misspellings in those web links or the email address. So look closely at those before clicking on anything that's unsolicited or maybe seems suspicious. The other thing, what I'd recommend to do is if you do get an email such as that, I would recommend going to the website yourself instead of clicking on a link or an attachment. So actually, if it's something that appears to be come from, for example, the CDC, I would go out and go to the CDC's website yourself rather than clicking on that link. Also, do some research on charities and other organizations that are asking for help, and be extra cautious if they're trying to push it in a timely manner where they need you to do something right away, to rush to send the money. Do some research on it. If in doubt, you can always call the police department at 605-882-6210 and talk with an officer about what you received. Maybe they could check on the legitimacy. A lot of times when scams go around, we see kind of the same scam happening every day, or we get lots of reports on similar scams. So again, just be cautious before you click on a website, a link, or open up an attachment, open up an email. look at what you're going to open before you actually open it. Like Mayor Karen said, there's one even going around that appears to come from the mayor's office. So again, I would like to remind everyone, if you want a good website with a lot of information on there, if you go to covid.sd.gov, there's a lot of great information on there from the state, anywhere from the Department of Labor to Game Fish and Parks to business information. So again, be cautious out there, be safe, be responsible when you're clicking on those links. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Danielson now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Danielson, Superintendent, Watertown School District. And I want to send a big shout out to our families and our staff. Thank you for helping us educate our students up to this point. Things have actually gone relatively smoothly as far as that goes. We've been doing distribution and exchange of materials on Mondays. We just had one yesterday. That's from 8 to 5 at all buildings. The one exception will be next week. We will not be doing one on Monday, April 13th due to the holiday weekend. I also want to encourage folks to check out our COVID-19 resource page for families. That you can find that off of the Watertown webpage. That we keep up with updates that I have for families, and there's information about all the instruction, meals, and then free internet options for our families. Yesterday, Governor Noem declared that schools would not be back in session for the remainder of the 1920 school year, and by in session meaning in-person classes. I want to stress that we have been instituting flexible learning options now for a few weeks, and those will continue. We will actually follow the regular school calendar as adopted. So what that means that this upcoming weekend we would have no school, even the e-learning school or flexible learning school, on Friday, April 10th or Monday, April 13th, with an end date in May as pronounced. So looking at the May 22nd, Friday, May 22nd for an end date to school. Also sent out yesterday from the South Dakota High School Activities Association, all activities have been canceled for this school year. That means that the April and May activities that we have also been canceled. Those at one point have been postponed due to the possibility of coming back to school in May. We have not made a formal announcement on our graduation ceremony yet. Plans for that are still in the works, and we will get that out to the public as soon as we have those. I also wanted to update on our, put an emphasis again on our lunch program. Again, those are available at the 5 elementary school sites and also the intermediate school for all children in Watertown up to age 18. And there is a form online. We just ask for our planning purposes if you would fill that out ahead of time. But again, there's no requirements other than you're a child in Watertown to get those. We've already served over 6,000 lunches and 5,200 breakfasts. What the student's going to receive each day is a lunch and a hot lunch in a to-go container, and then a breakfast pack for the next day. That's kind of average out to about 507 lunches a day and 439 breakfasts each day that we're serving. So we've had a very good response to that, and we expect that number to keep climbing as we go. That lunch will be served throughout the remainder of the school year, so families can plan on that for their menu items. One note on Lake Area, they have also transitioned to all online learning for the remainder of their school year. Their graduation was scheduled for May 8th, and again, an announcement will be made about that as soon as it's known. Thank you, and once again, I thank everyone for their cooperation in helping us keep school going.
Thank you, Dr. Danielson. I'm Jennifer Bender with Prairie Lakes Healthcare System. I'm one of the public information officers for the Watertown Area Task Force. And yesterday, Captain Kirk Ellis spoke a little bit about homemade masks. Now, we just want to remind you that there is a need for these masks. And if you'd like to sew and donate these masks, the pattern is available at www.prairielakes.com/mask pattern. We'll put the link below this video on Facebook as well. They can be made of cotton or cotton blend material like a t-shirt. If you do not have elastic, you can make them with fabric to be tied. We've heard a few comments about people not having access to elastic for the ties. You can use fabric for that. Once they are complete, please drop them off at the Salvation Army Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The address is 621 4th Street Southeast. Many have already accessed the pattern for the masks online already, so thank you so much. And we do have a pending list of healthcare workers who need these masks already. So once they are complete, please drop them off Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Salvation Army. And that concludes the briefing. Are there any questions from the media?
Hey, it's Mike from KWAT. I'm wondering if Jeff could step back up to the podium for a second.
Yes, Mike.
Hey, Jeff, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Since the governor's, kind of a two-part question here.
Okay.
When the governor announced yesterday that the in-classroom learning was done for the year, is that kind of what you expected, seeing as how things have been going? And then the second part of the question, kind of give me your impression of how distance learning is going in the Watertown School District, because we know it's not the same as being in a classroom.
Yes, I would agree. So the first part, we had been a little bit optimistic, and it did help us to plan once they were called off for the month of April. It allowed us to plan at least a little further ahead with, I'll say lesson planning and the tools we were going to use for the distance part or the flexible learning part. So that, but we always had that little glimmer of hope that we might be back in May. However, watching national news and other states around, you could kind of see the writing on the wall. So we do appreciate the early announcement here in April, so we can kind of now begin transitioning to how does the end of the year look like, or what does the end of the year look like, those sort of things, materials check-in, how do we finish an unusual school year while we go into summer. So we do appreciate that early announcement here in April. And then my assessment of how it's going, it's been a feeling out process on all parts. So our staff, the first time I was on this press briefing, I remember telling somebody, we just completely changed our school system in 1 week. And staff is feeling it out, how they can do, what's the right amount of materials that they can get to families or students in a day. And of course, our families are just working like crazy to try and help us educate students. So what we're trying to do is find that right balance of what's enough material to keep progress happening, but not to overwhelm people. And so that's a day-to-day lesson that we're learning, and we've got 300 individual teachers who are learning it, and up to 3,900 students and all their families who are helping us do that. So I think actually under the circumstances it's going as well as it can. We've had a good response to our materials exchange, and we're getting positive feedback as people come back in, and I know that our teachers are getting that too, and we do appreciate the support of the community. That has been felt as well. So,
one quick follow-up too for you, Jeff. I know you mentioned that no decision has been made on graduation ceremonies yet, and that's obviously important to a lot of the kids and parents out there. Can you speak to maybe what some options could be as far as, I don't know, holding it in an outdoor setting, sure, and try and distance people, pushing it back later into summer or even fall? Or have you gone that far yet to think about some options that could be available to still hold it?
I think you've named a couple of them. One of them would be, first of all, just to push it back and see, where our graduation date was May 24th. That would be difficult right now. I don't think we could have a traditional graduation ceremony and put 5,000 people in the Watertown Arena. That would not be allowable, and so at this point that would be tough to have. So we've looked at virtual options. We've looked at, maybe some non-traditional type celebratory options that maybe could work, but I think the realistic, we have to look at also, are we going to push it back? And at some point, you can only push it back so far, because if you get to, say, August, our seniors are starting to look at where are they going to school in the fall, have they gone to the military, have they moved, those sort of things. And so you can only push it back so far. So obviously, like some sort of virtual opportunity might be one of the things that probably is in play too, where it's at least broadcast, and then we practice the social distancing and find a way to safely get diplomas transferred over to students.
One last question for you, Jeff, here, and then I'll step aside. Everything that's going on right now, does that in any way, will it in any way impact your plans to start the remodeling of the high school this spring or summer?
Right now, it's not. So at our board meeting on Monday night, in fact, we are going to look at guaranteed maximum price for that remodel, and then hope to go out. Hope that the board will go out for bids to see what we can get back for a price. Obviously, if we'd have known what we know now, we could have started on March 16th, but because the school's been empty since then. But for now, we're on our timeline schedule, and that would mean still probably a June start if the bids come back in an acceptable price, and we're willing to do that.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, Mike.
Troy with KXLG Radio. A question for Mayor Sarah Karen.
Hi there.
Hi, Mayor. Good afternoon. Question about City Park and the status of camping. As we get into the warmer times of the year, those questions are going to come up. What is the status of City Park?
Well, the park board is discussing what they plan to do with City Park Campground, and they haven't made a decision yet. The campground isn't open yet. They don't have the water turned on or anything like that yet, so bathrooms are not operational, and they're reluctant to make a decision now that they would have to change later, so they're going to push that out just a little bit, and they'll probably address it at their next meeting. But I think that we can all kind of see the writing on the wall, so to speak, that our facilities are not likely to open back up, at least not by the beginning of the summer. Maybe middle to late summer we'll be able to open some of them up, but some of our park facilities, it's just not worth it to open up for a month or a few weeks, like the outdoor pool. That we're just not even going to go there. It's too much work, and we'll just have to wait till next year for those sort of things. But as for now, for the City Park Campground, they haven't made a decision. The parks are open in the open areas for people to use, as long as they're honoring the CDC guidelines for social distancing and not being in contact with other people physically. If you're out there with your family throwing a ball around, that's okay. What we don't want to see is people coming together and sharing items that people that they don't live with, sharing balls or bats or rackets or anything like that.
And then a second follow-up question for the mayor. Mayor, when will we see sales tax revenue reports begin to come in again?
Well, they'll be coming in, and we'll probably be getting, within a week or so, the March report. And, I think everybody's curious about it, and that'll be published. As far as I know, the state is still making those records available.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor, one more question for you, as long as we have you up there. Last night, you meaning the council, passed the second reading of the emergency ordinance that closes some of the non-essential businesses. There was no public comment at all from anyone at the meeting last night for or against that. I'm just wondering, on a personal note, did that surprise you that you didn't get any public comment at all? And do you think it maybe speaks to the fact that people are coming to the realization that this is maybe just the way it has to be, given everything that's happening?
I was surprised not to have any public comment. I thought we'd at least get some negative comments from businesses who don't like the fact that they're closed. But we didn't get any public comment. We did get some concerns expressed to us, but the council was pretty solid in their resolve to maintain and not loosen up the restrictions that we've taken so far. So I think people are coming to terms with it, and we have seen our numbers are creeping up, but they're not jumping up wildly, and we hope that stays the same. We did get a jump start on this compared to most other parts of the country, and thankfully we were able to see it happen elsewhere before it became an issue here. I think closing down the sporting events and the schools was huge in maintaining control over this pandemic in our community, and so I'm really glad that the governor did that. It was pretty insightful. At the time it seemed shocking, but very quickly looking around us we could see that that was a good move that she made. And we may have to take more measures in the future if we see the numbers rise quickly. We don't want this to get out of control. And right now we are in control, and our healthcare workers and facilities they have plenty of capacity to meet the need at this time. And we're monitoring that constantly, and we don't want to let it slip out of control.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Are there any more questions from the media? No? Well, thank you everyone for your support and for joining us live today. Have a great evening.